There are nights when the silence feels heavier than any noise you have ever heard. You sit in a room surrounded by people who care about you. Conversations happen around you. Life continues moving forward. And yet somewhere deep inside, there is a feeling that is difficult to explain. It is the feeling of being present without fully belonging. It is the feeling of watching the world move in one direction while your heart seems to be walking another path entirely. Many people who carry a strong sense of purpose know exactly what this feels like. They wake up every day, fulfill responsibilities, smile when necessary, encourage others when they can, and continue carrying burdens that almost nobody notices. Yet beneath all of that strength exists a quiet question that follows them through the years. Why do I feel so disconnected from the world around me? The truth is that this feeling often creates a kind of loneliness that words struggle to describe. It is not always the loneliness of being physically alone. Sometimes it appears in crowded rooms. Sometimes it appears during family gatherings. Sometimes it appears in the middle of success. It can even appear during moments that are supposed to feel joyful. You look around and wonder why something still feels missing. You wonder why your heart seems unable to settle into the same rhythms that satisfy everyone else. If this has been part of your journey, there is something important you need to understand. Feeling disconnected does not mean there is something wrong with you. It does not mean you are broken. It does not mean you failed at life. In many cases, it means your soul has been shaped by experiences that changed the way you see everything. The people who feel most disconnected are often the people who have endured the deepest struggles. They have seen disappointment. They have survived rejection. They have carried responsibilities that arrived far too early. They have learned lessons through pain that others learned through comfort. Experiences like these leave marks that cannot always be seen from the outside. They create wisdom. They create depth. They create sensitivity. They create a perspective that separates a person from the surface-level concerns that consume much of the world. You may have noticed that many conversations no longer satisfy you the way they once did. You may have noticed that things which seem incredibly important to others no longer hold the same weight in your mind. While many people spend their energy chasing approval, status, recognition, or comparison, something inside you longs for meaning. Something inside you longs for purpose. Something inside you longs for truth. This longing can create distance between you and the world around you, not because you think you are better than anyone else, but because your heart is searching for something deeper. Over time, this search can become exhausting. There are seasons when it feels like nobody understands what you carry. There are seasons when people misunderstand your quiet nature. They interpret your reflection as weakness. They interpret your sensitivity as fragility. They interpret your distance as indifference. They cannot see the battles that shaped you. They cannot see the strength required to continue moving forward after everything you have survived. They only see the surface. God sees much more than the surface. He sees every hidden burden. He sees every private tear. He sees every moment you almost gave up but somehow found the strength to continue. He sees every disappointment you never spoke about. He sees every sacrifice nobody appreciated. He sees every act of kindness that was overlooked. He sees every night you carried pain while pretending everything was fine. There is comfort in knowing that your value has never depended on whether other people recognized it. Human recognition comes and goes. Human approval changes with circumstances. Human understanding is often limited, but your worth was never created by the opinions of others. Your worth existed long before anyone judged you. Your worth existed before rejection touched your life. Your worth existed before failure entered your story. Your worth existed before loneliness became familiar. One of the hardest parts of feeling disconnected is the temptation to believe that you do not belong anywhere. That belief slowly tries to convince you that your story is different because you are somehow less important. It whispers that everyone else has found their place while you remain lost. It tells you that your struggles mean you have been forgotten. It tells you that your pain has no purpose. Those thoughts feel convincing during difficult seasons, but they are not telling the whole truth. The reality is that some of the strongest people in the world spent years feeling disconnected before they understood why. They were being shaped in ways they could not yet see. Their struggles were teaching patience. Their disappointments were teaching resilience. Their loneliness was teaching them how to find strength that did not depend on external validation. Their hardships were revealing parts of themselves that comfort never could have revealed. You carried burdens that few people ever noticed. Your kindness cost you more than most people will ever understand. Not every battle you fought was in vain. There is a strength within you that kept moving forward even on your darkest days. You are worth far more than the moments that tried to make you feel small. Some of your greatest victories happened in silence when nobody was watching. The fact that you are still standing says more about your strength than you realize. Your story has value, even if it did not unfold the way you expected. God saw the tears that nobody else noticed. The seasons that tested you were also shaping who you were becoming. Sometimes the disconnect you feel is not a punishment. Sometimes it is evidence of growth. Growth often creates temporary separation. The person you were years ago may have felt comfortable fitting into places that no longer align with who you are becoming. The conversations that once satisfied you may now feel empty. The environments that once felt familiar may now feel limiting. This does not mean you are meant to isolate yourself from others. It simply means your heart is evolving. As people grow, they often discover that their deepest needs have changed. They begin looking beyond appearances. They begin valuing peace more than popularity. They begin valuing authenticity more than acceptance. They begin valuing purpose more than comfort. This transformation can feel lonely for a time because not everyone around you is walking the same path. Yet it is often during these seasons that the most meaningful growth occurs. Every challenge you survived added something valuable to your character. Every setback taught you something about endurance. Every disappointment revealed something about your strength. Every lonely season deepened your compassion for others who suffer silently. The world often celebrates visible success, but many of the greatest transformations happen where nobody can see them. They happen in private prayers. They happen during quiet perseverance. They happen when a person chooses hope despite uncertainty. They happen when a person continues showing kindness despite being wounded. They happen when faith remains alive even after disappointment. Perhaps this is why your journey has felt different. Perhaps the very experiences that made you feel disconnected were also preparing you to become someone capable of understanding pain, extending grace, and offering encouragement in ways others cannot. The wounds you survived may eventually become part of the healing you bring into someone else's life. The comfort you longed for may become the comfort you one day provide. The understanding you searched for may become the understanding you offer another weary soul. Nothing you endured was meaningless. Not every struggle has an immediate explanation, but that does not mean it lacks purpose. There are seasons when God works quietly beneath the surface. There are seasons when growth happens invisibly. There are seasons when the roots grow deeper long before the fruit becomes visible. Those seasons can feel confusing because progress is difficult to measure. Yet some of the most important work happens there. If you feel disconnected from the world today, remember this. You are not disconnected from your value. You are not disconnected from your purpose. You are not disconnected from God's awareness of your life. You are not disconnected from hope. You are not disconnected from the future chapters that have yet to be written. The road may feel lonely at times, but loneliness does not have the final word over your story. There is still meaning ahead. There is still healing ahead. There is still growth ahead. There is still peace ahead. And there is still a place for everything you have endured to become part of something beautiful. If this message spoke to a part of your journey that few people understand, subscribe to the channel and continue walking alongside others who value faith, healing, purpose, and quiet strength. Sometimes the encouragement we need arrives through shared experiences, reminding us that we are not alone and that our story still matters. The hardest part about feeling disconnected from the world is not the silence itself. It is the fear that the silence means nothing is changing. It is waking up after years of effort and wondering why your heart still feels like it is carrying a weight nobody else can see. It is looking back on seasons of sacrifice and questioning whether any of it mattered. Many people who walk a deeper path eventually arrive at this place. They become tired of pretending they are unaffected by disappointment. They become tired of explaining themselves. They become tired of carrying strength that others seem to assume will always be there. The world often celebrates visible victories, but it rarely acknowledges the invisible battles that made those victories possible. It rarely notices the person who continued showing up after heartbreak. It rarely notices the person who remained kind after betrayal. It rarely notices the person who continued believing after repeated setbacks. Yet these hidden victories are often the most significant. They reveal a level of resilience that cannot be measured by titles, achievements, or recognition. If you have spent years feeling disconnected, there is a good chance that much of your growth happened in places where nobody was applauding. You learned how to survive seasons that seemed endless. You learned how to keep moving when motivation disappeared. You learned how to trust that your life still held meaning even when circumstances suggested otherwise. Those lessons are not small. They are part of what shaped the person you are today. There is a reason many people who feel disconnected also feel exhausted. They have spent years carrying emotional responsibilities that others never noticed. They became the strong one. They became the dependable one. They became the listener. They became the encourager. While everyone else was expressing their pain openly, they quietly carried their own. Eventually, that burden creates a kind of emotional fatigue. It is not weakness. It is the natural result of carrying heavy things for a long time. Yet even within that exhaustion, there is something remarkable. You are still here. Despite everything that tried to break your spirit, you are still standing. Despite every unanswered question, you are still searching for meaning. Despite every disappointment, there remains a part of you that refuses to surrender completely. That persistence says something important about who you are. It reveals a quiet courage that many people never develop. Some people only continue when life is easy. Some people only continue when they receive encouragement. Some people only continue when they can see immediate results. But you have continued through uncertainty. You have continued through confusion. You have continued through loneliness. That kind of endurance is not ordinary. It is the product of lessons learned through experience. One reason the chosen often feel disconnected is because their attention has gradually shifted away from appearances and toward substance. They have seen too much to be easily impressed by surface-level success. They have learned that a person can appear happy while silently hurting. They have learned that recognition does not always bring peace. They have learned that popularity does not guarantee fulfillment. Because of this understanding, they often find themselves searching for deeper connections than the world typically offers. They crave sincerity. They crave honesty. They crave conversations that touch the soul rather than simply passing the time. When those connections are difficult to find, isolation can begin to grow. Yet even this longing reveals something beautiful. It reveals that your heart has not settled for emptiness. It reveals that you still believe meaningful connection exists. It reveals that your spirit continues reaching towards something greater than superficial acceptance. That longing itself is evidence that hope remains alive within you. There may have been moments when you wondered whether God forgot about you. Perhaps you looked at the lives of others and questioned why things seemed easier for them. Perhaps you watched opportunities appear for other people while doors remained closed for you. Perhaps you prayed for direction and received silence. Those experiences can create deep discouragement. They can make a person feel abandoned. Yet many of the most transformative seasons begin exactly there. Throughout life, there are periods when growth happens quietly. During those times, it may seem as though nothing is changing. Yet beneath the surface, important work is taking place. Character is developing. Perspective is expanding. Wisdom is growing. Patience is being strengthened. Faith is becoming more mature. None of these changes happen instantly. They happen gradually, often without immediate evidence. Looking back, many people eventually discover that what felt like abandonment was actually preparation. What felt like delay was actually development. What felt like isolation was actually a season of becoming. The disconnect you feel today may be connected to a purpose you cannot fully see yet, not because every hardship automatically leads to something dramatic, but because hardship often produces qualities that comfort cannot create. Compassion grows differently after suffering. Strength grows differently after adversity. Gratitude grows differently after loss. These qualities become part of your foundation. They become part of the person you are becoming. There is something else that deserves to be remembered. Feeling disconnected from the world does not mean you are disconnected from people who share similar experiences. Across countless homes, cities, and communities, there are individuals carrying stories very much like yours. They know what it feels like to smile while hurting. They know what it feels like to feel misunderstood. They know what it feels like to wonder whether anyone truly sees them. Their journeys may not be identical, but their struggles echo familiar themes. This is why encouragement matters so much. Sometimes a single reminder can help a weary heart keep moving forward. Sometimes a few words of understanding can provide more comfort than an entire crowd. Sometimes the simple realization that you are not alone changes everything. Your journey has value. Your experiences have value. The lessons you learned through pain have value. Even the seasons you wish had never happened contributed something meaningful to your growth. They revealed strengths you did not know you possessed. They revealed resilience that only became visible under pressure. They revealed faith that survived storms. The world may never fully understand everything you endured, and perhaps it does not need to. The most important thing is that your struggles did not erase your worth. They did not diminish your value. They did not cancel your purpose. In fact, many of the qualities that make you who you are today were forged during those difficult years. Think about how many times you could have become bitter but chose kindness instead. Think about how many times you could have quit but kept moving forward. Think about how many times you could have closed your heart but continued caring about others. These decisions matter. They reveal the depth of your character. They reveal the strength of your spirit. They reveal that something valuable remained alive within you, even when circumstances were difficult. The world often overlooks quiet strength because it is not loud. It does not demand attention. It does not seek applause. Yet quiet strength is one of the most powerful forces a person can possess. It is the strength that gets out of bed after disappointment. It is the strength that continues believing after setbacks. It is the strength that chooses compassion after being hurt. It is the strength that continues walking forward one step at a time. If you have carried this strength for years, know that it has not gone unnoticed by God. Every act of perseverance mattered. Every moment of faith mattered. Every choice to continue mattered. Even when progress felt invisible, something was happening within you. You were becoming stronger than you realized. You were becoming wiser than you realized. You were becoming more capable of bringing light into difficult places than you realized. One day, you may look back and see that the disconnect you felt was not evidence that you were lost. It was evidence that your heart was searching for something deeper. It was evidence that you were being guided toward greater authenticity. It was evidence that your soul refused to settle for a life that lacked meaning. Until that understanding becomes clear, continue giving yourself grace. Continue honoring the strength it took to reach this point. Continue remembering that your story is larger than your current emotions. Continue believing that difficult chapters are not the entire book. The future still holds opportunities for healing, connection, peace, and growth. There are still people you have not met. There are still experiences you have not lived. There are still blessings you cannot yet imagine. Most importantly, there is still a reason to hope. If these words reminded you that your journey is not meaningless and that your struggles have helped shape a strength worth honoring, subscribe to the channel and continue joining a community centered on faith, encouragement, healing, and personal growth. Sometimes the path becomes easier when we remember that others are walking forward with the same hope in their hearts. There comes a moment in many lives when the feeling of being disconnected from the world begins to transform into something different. It does not happen overnight. It is not the result of a single breakthrough or one perfect day. It happens gradually, through small realizations that quietly reshape the way a person sees themselves and their journey. One day you begin to understand that the loneliness you carried was not always evidence that you were abandoned. Sometimes it was evidence that you were growing in ways that required solitude. One day you begin to understand that the rejection you experienced was not always a reflection of your worth. Sometimes it was simply proof that not every environment was meant to become your permanent home. One day you begin to understand that the disconnect you felt from the world was often connected to a deeper desire for meaning, truth, purpose, and authenticity. This understanding changes something inside you. Instead of constantly asking why you feel different, You begin to appreciate the strength that emerged because of those differences. Instead of focusing only on what was lost, you begin noticing what was gained. You begin seeing the wisdom that came from hardship. You begin seeing the compassion that came from pain. You begin seeing the resilience that came from surviving seasons that once seemed impossible. The world has a way of measuring value through visible accomplishments. It often tells people that success is the ultimate proof of significance, yet many individuals discover that some of life's most important victories are invisible. They happen when a wounded heart learns to trust again. They happen when a discouraged person finds hope after disappointment. They happen when someone chooses faith despite uncertainty. They happen when someone continues showing kindness after being treated unfairly. These victories rarely make headlines, but they shape lives in profound ways. If you have spent years feeling disconnected, there is a good chance that many of your greatest victories happened beneath the surface. Nobody saw the tears you wiped away before facing another day. Nobody saw the nights when you wrestled with fear and uncertainty. Nobody saw the moments when you questioned your future and still found the courage to keep going. Yet those moments mattered. They revealed a strength that cannot be taken away by circumstances. They revealed a determination that survived challenges. They revealed a depth of character that only develops through perseverance. Sometimes people look at their lives and focus entirely on what did not happen. They focus on opportunities that never arrived, relationships that ended, dreams that changed, or plans that unfolded differently than expected. While those disappointments are real, they do not tell the entire story. There is another side to the story that deserves attention. It is the story of everything you survived. It is the story of every obstacle you overcame. It is the story of every lesson learned through experience. It is the story of every time you chose to rise again after falling. The fact that you are still here today means that countless difficult moments failed to defeat you. The fact that you are still searching for purpose means hope remains alive within you. The fact that you still care, still believe, and still desire something meaningful says more about your strength than you may realize. Many chosen individuals spend years believing they are behind because their path looks different from the paths of others. They compare timelines. They compare achievements. They compare relationships. They compare milestones. Comparison creates unnecessary suffering because it ignores the uniqueness of every journey. No two lives are shaped in exactly the same way. No two stories unfold according to the same schedule. Some lessons arrive early for one person and later for another. Some blessings arrive quickly while others require years of preparation. This does not mean one life is more valuable than another. It simply means every journey has its own timing. Your journey has never been defined by how closely it resembles someone else's. Your value has never depended on keeping pace with another person's timeline. God has always seen your path in its entirety, including the chapters you could not yet understand. He saw the beginning. He sees the present. He sees the future. He sees the parts of your story that remain hidden from view. That truth becomes especially important during seasons of uncertainty. When answers seem distant, it is easy to assume nothing good is ahead. Yet life repeatedly shows that some of the most meaningful chapters arrive after long periods of waiting. Not because waiting is enjoyable, but because waiting often develops qualities that become essential later. Patience develops, perspective develops, character develops, gratitude develops, strength develops. Looking back, many people realize that the seasons they would never choose for themselves became the seasons that shaped them most profoundly. Perhaps that is true for you as well. Perhaps the years that felt empty were quietly preparing your heart for deeper appreciation. Perhaps the years that felt lonely were teaching you how to discover strength within yourself. Perhaps the years that felt confusing were helping you develop wisdom that will serve you for the rest of your life. None of this means the pain was easy. None of this means the struggles should be ignored. Pain is real. Disappointment is real. Loneliness is real. But those experiences are not the final definition of who you are. They are chapters within your story, not the conclusion of it. You are more than the losses you experienced. You are more than the mistakes you made. You are more than the moments that made you question yourself. You are more than the seasons that left you feeling disconnected from the world around you. Within you exists a quiet strength that has carried you farther than you thought possible. Within you exists a resilience that refused to surrender. Within you exists a capacity for hope that continued surviving, even when circumstances became difficult. These qualities matter. They are part of the treasure hidden within your journey. There may still be days when the disconnect returns. There may still be moments when you feel misunderstood. There may still be seasons when loneliness visits unexpectedly. But those experiences no longer have to convince you that you are forgotten. They no longer have to convince you that you are without purpose. They no longer have to convince you that your life lacks meaning. You can acknowledge those feelings without allowing them to define your identity. You can recognize the pain without surrendering your hope. You can honor the struggles without losing sight of the future. The truth is that your story continues. New chapters remain unwritten. New opportunities remain unseen. New moments of healing remain ahead. New connections remain possible. New reasons for gratitude remain waiting. Life has not finished revealing everything it holds for you. Some of the people who will appreciate your heart have not entered your life yet. Some of the lessons that will bring clarity have not arrived yet. Some of the peace you have been searching for is still unfolding. The path forward may not always be obvious, but that does not mean it does not exist. Continue walking. Continue believing. Continue valuing the person you have become through every challenge. Continue remembering that your worth is not determined by recognition, approval, or comparison. Your worth has always been greater than those things. You carried burdens that few people ever noticed. Your kindness cost you more than most people will ever understand. Not every battle you fought was in vain. There is a strength within you that kept moving forward even on your darkest days. You are worth far more than the moments that tried to make you feel small. Some of your greatest victories happened in silence when nobody was watching. The fact that you are still standing says more about your strength than you realize. Your story has value even if it did not unfold the way you expected. God saw the tears that nobody else noticed. The seasons that tested you were also shaping who you were becoming. If this message brought comfort to your heart and reminded you that your journey still carries purpose, subscribe to the channel and continue receiving encouragement rooted in faith, resilience, healing, and hope. May these messages help you remember that you belong, that your story matters, and that the strength God placed within you is still carrying you toward brighter days.